My boyfriend of 6 years vanished while I was out of town and I haven't been able to contact him, so I traced his phone, but when I went to confront him I found him sobbing over his ex-wife. Last Tuesday evening I, 32F, came home from being out of town for 2 weeks for work. My boyfriend, 35M, Nate was supposed to pick me up from the airport, but once I got in, I wasn't able to get a hold of him and he never showed up. I was a little annoyed but no too worried because I figured he had fallen asleep. When I talked to him earlier that morning he said he didn't sleep very well the night before and was going to lay down before he had to come get me, so I called my sister for a ride home. When I got home Nate was nowhere to be found. I checked the garage and his car was gone, so I sent him a text asking where he was and headed upstairs to unpack. When I opened the closet to put my things away I saw that almost all of his clothes were gone. At this point I'm confused, so I start calling him. It just keeps ringing and then going to voicemail. I check his office and everything is still there, everything in the house is still there and in place except his clothes and his car. I'm really starting to freak out at this point, so I call my sister and she comes over and we both try calling and messaging him and still get no answer. His computer and his laptop are both still in his office. I logged on to his computer and my sister his laptop. I know all his passwords, but we didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so I started searching his desk and found his iPad in the top drawer. I logged into it and checked everything I could think of and found nothing out of the ordinary. My sister suggested checking the Find My iPhone app on his iPad to see if we find out where his phone was. We logged into the app and see that his phone was pinging in the next state over. I started calling him again but still got no answers to my calls or text. I really start to lose it here. My mind starts going all over the place trying to figure out what could be going on. I called the police because I think someone has to have done something to him. The police came out but they said there wasn't much they could do because he hasn't been gone long and his clothes missing was sign that he left on his own violation. Over the last few days I've done everything I can to contact him. He doesn't have any family except for a brother that he cut ties with before I met him. I found him online and sent him a message but he said he hasn't seen or heard from Nate in years. I keep checking his phone's location and since Saturday morning it has been pinging in the same location. I took off work for the rest of the week and my sister and I are flying up there to go to the location his phone is pinging. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? How do I even confront him? What if he is with another woman? What if he isn't there or worse? I am so lost and hurt right now. My mind is all over the place. I can't think straight. I'm so lost right now. I am 5 months pregnant and we have known for 3 months. He did become a bit reserved and withdrawn since we found out, but it's not uncommon for him to do that every so often, especially around this time of year. I don't truly believe that he would abandon me and his child. That's just not the type of man he is, but I don't know what to think anymore. Update 1. Later that day. I think this will be my final update. I have to get ready and get my stuff packed for the flight in the morning. I have just spent the last hour speaking to the couple whose house he was at and they against his wishes told me what is going on. They have known Nate since he was 12 years old. He started dating their daughter Ashley when they were in 6th grade and they united dating all through middle school and high school. Ashley got pregnant toward the end of their senior year and they got engaged. I don't know how to even write this next part. When their son was 1.5 years old they were involved in an accident with a drunk driver. Nate was ejected from the car and Ashley and his son passed away in the accident. She said that he blames himself for it because according to him they were never supposed to be out that night and it was his fault they were. She said he withdrew from them and everyone else and that up until last Friday that hadn't heard from him since he left. She has offered to come get my sister and I from the airport in the morning and she can try to answer any questions I have while we wait for him to return. She said they know where he is. He is at the spot they spread their ashes. She said he told her that he need be with his son one more time before he let him go. I'm honestly in a total state of shock right now. I don't know what to think but I know he is in pain and I need to get to him. I can figure everything else after. Thank you to all the kind people who reached out and offered your suggestions. I honestly don't think I would have this information right now if it wasn't for you all, so again thank you. Update, 2 weeks later. First I want to say thank you to everyone who reached out and offered your advice and help. On the other hand, the people who were just mean or all the men who came into my messages, you should be ashamed of yourselves. We did fly out to Seattle last Tuesday morning. Kathy, the wife of the couple, picked us up from the airport and took us back to their place. On the way there she said her husband was on his way to go find Nate so he could bring him back, but it would likely be a few hours before they would arrive back. As we waited, Kathy did her best to answer some of the questions that I had. I knew Nate lost his mom at a young age to breast cancer, but she said it had deeply profound effect on him and he became a very troubled child. She said that when him and Ashley met that Nate was in a group home. I did not know this because he was in a lot of trouble for fighting and substance use. He was 12. I was kind of taken back by this because I've never known him to do anything besides smoke marijuana from time to time. He doesn't even drink. She said that when they met, Ashley immediately took on a role of protector of him. She could feel his pain and she wanted to rescue him from it. When they finally got to know him, they decided that they would take Nate in if he wanted that once he was out of the group home. When he was 16, he finally got out of the group home but was still on probation, so he had to live with his dad, who was an alcoholic and abusive, but he would spend most evenings and weekends at their house. He still got in trouble because he kept failing his UA for marijuana, but he was no longer getting into fights. He credited Ashley for that and felt like she and her family were the only people besides his mom to ever show him any compassion or love. She asked if I would like to see pictures of them, and when she showed me the picture of Nate holding his son for the first time, I broke down, because I have never seen him in the 6 years we have been together with a smile like that. He was so happy. He smiles now from time to time and he is always laughing, but I've never seen that smile, that gleam. It just broke me to know that he had been living in that much pain for 15 plus years and hid it from everyone. We looked through more pictures and she told more stories. And spoke of how sad she was when he left. We talked for hours and then finally her husband came through the door, but Nate was not with him. George, Kathy's husband, said that he had found Nate where he was supposed to be and explained that my sister and I were at their house waiting for him. He said when he told him this that Nate laughed and said of course, and that he would head back, he just needed a few more minutes alone. So we waited for what felt like forever, and finally a little over 2 hours after George arrived back, Nate walked in the front door. He looked at me and the first words out of his mouth were, "I should have known my note wouldn't be good enough and that you would come find me. I love you and I am very sorry." I said, "What note?" And he said, "The one I put in your front seat, he put in my car." I never even thought to check there for anything. I'm going to leave out a lot of this next part because it's very personal, but I asked him why he would just leave me at the airport and why he wouldn't just call or text me that he was leaving. He said that while I was gone, he wanted to put some of the things that we had gotten for the baby in the nursery and start painting it before I got back, and that everything was fine until he started putting together the dresser and the changing station. While he was doing that, he was flooded with memories of his son and Ashley, and that it actually knocked him off his feet and he broke down. He said every time he closed his eyes he saw them, that's why he couldn't sleep. He said he dared to take mushrooms to try and help get him out of it. But all that did was make things worse, and he realized that he needed to not forget them and not hide them, and that he needed to go make peace with them and ask them to forgive him for abandoning their memory. He knew that when I got home that I would obviously know something wasn't right with him, and he also didn't know how to tell me he had been hiding a huge part of his past. Anyway, he expressed how sorry he was and that he understood if all of this was too much and if I didn't want to be with him anymore that he would completely understand. I let him know that as long as he agreed to never hide something from me or disappear again and would agree to go to therapy and couples therapy, that I wouldn't be going anywhere. He promised he would do whatever I asked of him. Our baby is doing okay and so am I. I just need him to be okay and everything will be good again. Anyway, thank you again to all the kind hearts who reached out.